Live. Yes, we're live. Hello, everyone. Charlie here. Hope you are all doing well. Excuse me. I apologize in advance for the stream. I'm going to still have a little bit of a cough today, so I apologize if that hurts anybody's ear holes. Let me pause my stream here so I don't have to listen to myself talk. Don't want to inflict that upon myself. So thanks everybody for coming today. As noted in the description of the stream, not the description, but the title. Today I thought it would be fun to talk about some of the things that I wish I had done differently up until this point, or maybe earlier in my sort of my stay here, I guess. Let's try that one more once. Things that I wish I had done differently, maybe when I first came here or in the first couple of years after I moved to Japan. Before we get into it, I just want to say hello to everybody who is in the comments. Hello, Becky, of course, joining us, I think, from Canada. Salty P, who I believe is from Jamaica? I think so. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, luckily I can't give you disease through the power of the internet. Not yet, anyway. Give it a couple more years and a couple new technologies, and maybe that'll be a thing. Alan, what's going on? Nice to see you. Nice to see you. From Scotland. I love how there's so many people from so many different countries who come to these streams, guys. It means a lot to me. So thanks for being here. As opposed to last week where things were sort of a lot more. Roz, what's up, man? Thanks for coming. As opposed to last week where things were really regimented. Like I knew I wanted to talk about X, Y, and Z as far as anime and X, Y, and Z as far as music and things like that go. I want to make this a little bit more of an open stream, guys. So please feel free to ask questions in the comments. We can make this just as much of a Q&A about experiences and stuff like that as me talking about some specific things that I do want to hit. So yeah, please let me know. Yeah, Raz, man, it's 2 a.m., but thank you, man. It means a lot to me that you're here. So let's make sure my windows here are all set up, and then we can get to it. Gotta have my notes open. I shaved my cheeks and brushed my teeth to look pretty for you guys. So I don't know. That's an awkward thing to point out. I apologize. That's that's strange. But anyway, like I said, before we dive into this, please just let me know in the comments who if you have something you want to add to a point I've made or another point you'd like to make that we can talk about. Excuse me. We are going to be keeping this to just about an hour today, just because I have to catch a train at 11:30 my time, so I gotta run over to the train station really quick after the stream ends. And but as far as the time we do have, let's make the most out of it. So that being said, let's get underway. And the first thing I want to talk about, of course, is that there is sort of this kind of dualism when it comes to being a foreigner in Japan, when it comes to how you interact with other foreigners, right? I'm sure you've all heard stories from other bloggers about dickish foreigners who they have interactions with them and people will blow them off because they're a foreigner, right? I mean, this is a foreigner to foreigner interaction. And then on the other hand, you have people who only hang out with foreigners when they move to Japan. And I think the first thing I want to talk about is I think I would be less of that sort of dickish foreigner when I first came to Japan. Now, when I first came here, the first 6 months, I didn't actively try to blow off other foreign people, but at the same time, I sort of purposely didn't go to events that were meant to connect foreign people and stuff like that, because I thought that it would be better for me if I would just trial by fire, right? If I wasn't meeting foreign people, that maybe somehow in my head that equaled being able to meet more Japanese people. And it wasn't necessarily the case. I, of course, in that time did make a good number of Japanese friends. Well, not in the first 6 months, but after that. But the truth of the matter is there's so many excuse me, feelings that you have, especially when you first move here, and even now that I've been here for almost 2.5 years. There are things that happen. There are situations that only people who are living sort of like that, the life of an immigrant, I guess, or maybe as a temporary immigrant, right? And expat, which that word is so loaded for a number of reasons. But I mean, there are things that you can only talk about with those people, and it's really, really nice to have that support. And especially when you're having trouble making Japanese friends for the first 6 months, maybe the first year or whatever, until your Japanese gets up to speed or you're more comfortable or whatever. It's a really important bit of support, as Alan is pointing out in the comments here. You definitely need that support. But that being said, as much as I wish I would have sort of gotten it out of my head that I didn't need that support sooner, that I wish I would have been like, okay, well, it's fine to have these connections here, and it's important to have these connections here, both for me and those other people who are having a lot of the same experience as me. Very quickly, what can happen when you fall into, not when you fall into, when you do connect with those people, is it's very easy. It's so easy and it's so comforting to get into what a lot of us in in the community call the gaijin bubble, right? And I think particularly when you're living in a countryside area, getting into the gaijin bubble can be really, really, really detrimental. If you want to have any kind of long-term life here, or you want to get away from that shallow life that a lot of us are always complaining about, right? Excuse me. No, the gaijin bubble is the idea that you only hang around with foreign people, and you only speak your mother tongue, and you only do things that maybe you would do back home, or you only do things like together, right? And maybe you don't include Japanese friends or anything like that much in those interactions. And again, I think it's fine to go out for dinner with just people who, other people who have moved here from other countries, other foreigners or other English teachers or whatever. But on the other hand, what ends up happening, that comfort we talked about, right? That ease and that support, that comes with connecting to other foreign people, it can be kind of addictive, right? And you think, well, okay, well, I want to do this thing, but it's less scary for me to invite my foreign friends than to try and make Japanese friends and go with them and things like that, right? And so eventually you get caught up in it where you're like, okay, well, it's just kind of like the easy way to do it. You just end up staying with those other foreign friends, and maybe you don't end up learning as much about the culture as you could. You don't end up leveling up your language skills as much as you could. Tammy, hello. Hello, hello. Don't some people tend to stay away from foreigners and try to level their Japanese skill up? Yes, Alan, for sure. Now, having pointed out those two sides, of what is ultimately, I guess, something of the same problem, I think the best way to go about it is balance, right? All things in balance. I think there is such a thing as, being a dick and just ignoring other foreigners, just for the sake of it, right? Because you somehow feel like they're going to drag you down or drag down your ability to assimilate here, to learn Japanese. And I want to point out and be very honest, I think that is a possibility, but it's not necessarily their fault, right? You can have those friends. Hi, Julie Hart, nice to see you. It's not necessarily their fault. It is ultimately up to you to choose to put in the time in Japanese or to learn the culture or whatever the case may be. But on the other hand, you can get too immersed in that sort of foreign community to the point where I end up wondering, what is the point of you being in Japan? And that's something I think about a lot, is like, okay, well, if I'm only ever going to hang out with just other foreigners, then why didn't I just stay home and occasionally go out to a sushi restaurant? You know what I mean? Or just read a book about Japan? Because sometimes what ends up happening is you get so immersed in that culture that is familiar to your own that you sort of ignore the one that you came here for a reason to see. So if that makes any sense at all. Excuse me. Death. I apologize that I say death a lot after I cough. It's just I feel really awkward. And it's real embarrassing for me when I go back and edit these live streams to put them back up later. And I'm like, oh, I bet I'm about to say death again. And sure enough, because I'm an asshole. Let's see how we're doing in the comments. Agreed. If you go to a country, you totally need to make an effort to learn the language. As an introvert and email, do you find it more difficult to make Japanese friends or what? My husband is like that. Yeah, so especially initially. And this is something I should point out, is that maybe it seems to you like it has seemed to a lot of people that I am very outgoing, when the truth is I'm not that outgoing of a person. Um, I can be in spurts, but otherwise I need to be alone for a lot of time. That's just who I am, you know. And to answer this question here, yeah, it can be difficult to sort of push yourself to want to go out and make Japanese friends, or even to make other foreign friends here. And I will say that between the time when I was living in Nagoya for university and when I started living here too in Fukui, um, there's a big difference. In Nagoya, I didn't really have to work to make foreign friends because people were interested. There are a lot of people who were used to seeing other foreigners, for example, and so maybe they thought, okay, well, this is pretty normal. I can just talk to this person. It's not a big deal. But here in Fukui, and it's something I'm going to talk about with a point I want to make later. If you don't, if I didn't learn to sort of be outgoing and talk to people, I would never, I think, make friends here, and I probably wouldn't ever be able to date anybody or anything like that. So yeah, it can be difficult and it can be draining if you're more of an introvert, right? Where you need to sort of recharge your social battery, um, to sort of constantly push yourself to be more outgoing. So assimilation, how hard is that in Japan? Uh, mm, I think it depends on where you are to some in to some degree. It depends on where you are and who you are. And unfortunately, I think probably, at least initially, what you look like, both color, body mass, things like that. Whether you look intimidating or you don't look intimidating, if you're a man or a woman, these things are definitely something to take into account. But I don't think it's that hard to assimilate ultimately. If you try and you keep your ears open and you ask a lot of questions, people are really forgiving of that. And what I found is that people here really notice when you're trying to respect the way things are done, or you're trying to respect, for example, keigo and the way you speak, right? People understand when you're at least trying to speak politely to them and things like that. And so, in other words, effort and perceived effort go a long way to actual assimilation, and also how people will perceive you when you're trying to assimilate into your life here. That's not to say that in some ways, or even many ways, you won't still sort of stick out, and some things won't happen that will make you feel a little uncomfortable or even sort of infantilized in some situations. But um, I feel personally it's less difficult than it's often made out to be. Are there a lot of foreigners where you live now, from Ras Al Ghul? Excuse me. Yeah, but most of the foreigners who live in this area are from the Philippines, places in Southeast Asia, who come over here to work in the bicycle and car factories, and also the glasses factory, which is our big industry here. Um, and I don't have a lot of connection with that community. I do have a number of friends who are either ALTs or they're Kaiwa teachers. Some of whom are very very close friends of mine. Well, most of them just moved back to the U.S. and Canada and London. So that sucks. But yeah, and that's the other thing that's hard about making friends with other foreigners here, is that just, and this is something Japanese people will say to you too, is that it's hard to make foreign friends here because you never know when they're going to up and leave. you know. And I agree with that. I've had so many friends, and one of my very best friends just moved back to California. A friend that I made here, someone who I really connected with on like an intellectual kind of level, and he moved back, and that's definitely a factor too. Is that, yeah, people tend to leave a lot more frequently in the foreign community here. So I find a lot of Japanese are extroverted. I see them as introverted because they don't know much, and um, no. No, I don't. I feel, I don't know. It's kind of complicated. I think there's like a line. There's almost like a different definition of extroversion and introversion here. There's like a, within your own social groups or maybe your own like status level. There's definitely extroverted people. Um, but generally, as far as like talking to new people, I would say most people, at least whom I've seen, have been more introverted towards other Japanese. Now, that being said, when I've been in an izakaya, for example, there are plenty of people who want to talk to me about dickhead Trump, President Trump, and and want to talk about politics, or want to talk about what brought me here, or want to get my opinion on something that's happening in the city, something like that. And I think that's because I am foreign, which, let's be honest, that is in some way some kind of discrimination. But at the same time, it's like a form of discrimination that I don't really mind most of the time. There are times when I'm drinking my beer, I'm just like, don't talk to me, stranger person, But it is nice to be seen as more of like a welcoming, to have more of a welcoming, open persona where people want to just sort of feel like they can be more extroverted when it comes to speaking with me. What company did you get your first job English teaching? Excuse me, I have like dyslexia today. What company did you get your first English teaching job with? I will not disclose that publicly because I'm still with that company. But if you want to know more about it, Julie, you can either private message me on Twitter, or you can send me a message to my YouTube account or Facebook. But yeah, the company I'm with now, I've been with for 2.5 years. Very happy with them. So, would you say you have more Japanese friends or foreigners? Now, probably more Japanese friends here. Between the friends I still have from university time, and then the friends that I've made here. And excuse me, terrible cough. I apologize again for this cough, guys. That's interesting. I'm looking through the list of what I want to talk about today, and ultimately, like, a lot of the things I want to talk about are centered around my basically having a bit more strength of self, I guess. So yeah, Ellen, I went to the Sento this morning, the bathhouse, and really chilled out before the stream, and I think my brain might still be in like super chill mode. So all right, well, moving on. Of course, guys, if you have any other questions related to that, be sure to put them in the comments. But sort of related to this, how much longer am I planning on living in Japan? Forever. Forever. At least for the moment. Things could always change in the future, but for now, yeah, I have no plans to move back to the States, or move out of the country for that matter. But sort of related to this, right? Because ultimately excuse me, the best part of connecting to other foreigners, and the trap of connecting too much with other foreigners, is the idea of support. Is that I would stop relying on other people to do things for me. I do know some people who teach in China, Ellen. One of my cousins teaches in China, has been there for 7 years or something like that, I think. Now, when I talk about not relying on people to do things for me, I'm talking about things like going with me to the cell phone place, going with me to the bank, going with me to the hospital. For the first year and a half, maybe, that I was here, anytime I went someplace like that, I made sure to bring somebody with me. And that's not a bad thing, right? Especially the first interaction you have when you're going to a bank or to a cell phone company or something like that. There is so much vocabulary, jargon, just jargon, like banking specific Japanese, or like contract specific Japanese that I never heard before going to the bank for the first time. So, of course, bringing people with you those first couple times you have those interactions is really, really important, I think, because you don't want to put yourself in a bad situation, of course. But that being said, probably when I was still bringing people with me around that year and a half mark, basically what I was doing was leaning on a crutch and not really sort of, doing everything I could have. Like, we had somebody, 1 second here. We had, let's see, where did you go? Commenter. Where did you go? Friendly Fieros. She asked, how hard is it to assimilate? One of the big parts of your being able to assimilate is being able to do things for yourself, right? Or at least trying to do things to yourself until you can basically live uh, on the day to day like a normal person, a Japanese person would live on their day to day, right? They need to go to the bank and talk to somebody. They go to the bank and talk to somebody. They have to go to the hospital and see a doctor. They go to the hospital and see a doctor, whatever, right? And always relying on a crutch will bite you in the ass, because if you want to go someplace new, you'll feel like, oh, shouldn't I bring somebody with me, right? And maybe that'll build that kind of dependency that I think, yeah, it's kind of dangerous. Uh, am I on you now? Question from Genki Kame. I'm not on you now. I don't think I even know what you now is. It's basically like, okay, it's just a live broadcast experience. Okay. That is exactly what it sounds like. Probably put two and two together, but I'm pulling it up. So, yeah, looking into teaching in China. That's cool, man. Whereabouts do you want to be? I've thought about that. Like, if I do ever get tired of this, or if I just want to take a break from time, I've thought about going to teach in China, or more likely just traveling to China for a month or two, because I really want to. I really want to do some backpacking in China, but I don't speak any Chinese of any dialect. So Beijing would be so cool, man. Bring a gas mask though, so you can breathe. Have some background. What kind of background noise are you guys getting, by the way? Is it like banging? Excuse me. Jake Smith, Danielle, hello. Yeah, sorry guys if you are getting some background noise. There's some construction happening nearby. I can't really, a scratching noise. I was moving my stuff on the desk. Is it static? Okay, it's away. Right. Just, I won't touch anything. Yeah, Wikipedia drew my profile picture. Wikipedia is a professional animator, and also she has her own webcomic, which the information for that webcomic is always in the description below my videos if you want to check it out, by the way. It's because my phone's right next to my microphone because I'm a turd. Okay, I threw it away. And now the AI on my phone's going to say, die, because I dropped it. Excuse me. Hickey is awesome. She is a cool lass. But don't tell her I said so. It'll go right to her head. Right. Okay. Too much dead air, Charlie, you asshole. But anyway, I mean, I love teaching China with the air quality. Yeah, man, that's really scary to me. And it's something actually that Fukui is the closest, this region, Fukui is the closest to Asia, to China, and to the Koreas. And my doctor told me the other day when I was going to get like my checkup to make sure I wasn't like dying. Don't tell her, Becky, you terrorist. But yeah, the doctor said probably for the next 2 months, it's going to be a good idea if you're out running or walking or something to wear a mask, because we're getting dust, and a lot of that pollution from China is blowing over here, along with kafun, the pollen of the season. Apparently, when they mix together, they make like a very potent cancer-making, not gas, but cloud kind of thing, which is only slightly terrifying. So thanks, China. But yeah. So related to something I talked about earlier, right, where I wanted to talk about somebody asked me about being outgoing and being outgoing, and if it was hard to make friends and stuff like that. And I mentioned how difficult it can be in the Inaka and in the countryside, and for sure. And I think one of like maybe the very first One Cup of Japans I ever shot, basically the topic was about how unless you want to date old women in the Inaka, your choices are limited, right? And I should probably make a new video talking about how sort of naive and ignorant that was of me to make that back then. But the fact of the matter is, there are plenty of women here, uh, and there are plenty of men here for those of you who are interested in men, by the way. Um, but the thing is that when I was living in the U.S., I never. No, I want to preface this by saying this is not me being like I'm hot shit, but I'm saying I never had much trouble with women, with finding dates or having relationships or anything like that. And when I was in the States, a lot of times women would approach me, or they would, you know, they would ask me out, or whatever and stuff like that. But here, I can tell you that, I mean, it has happened to me like once or twice, but like compared to what I was used to in the States, where maybe the interest was sort of coming this way, where other people were doing the work to get my attention. It is almost 100% the opposite here. Like I said, there are some few exceptions, so maybe 97% the opposite. Alan, if you're only 18, man, don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. Who knows what China's going to look like in a couple years? So, or what anything's going to look like in a couple years. So, you know, you got time. You got time. But yeah, what I found here, and this is another thing, like with getting out of like that bubble I was talking about, and sort of being more outgoing, is that like the woman that I'm with now, if I had not sort of broken out of that shell, or learned to to be more outgoing and how to approach women, um, I think probably I would have a much different life here, and it would be probably much lonelier. And it's not just women and romantic connections; it's maybe making friends here too. Same thing in the States. With making friends, it was always a pretty easy thing, but here, at least in Fukui, where people are not as used to interactions with non-Asian foreigners, uh, the rate of people approaching you here seems to be a lot lower, a lot lower. So that's something that I would certainly say from kind of like the get go. I would definitely try and push myself to talk to more women, or to talk to even men, to make friends more quickly. So because we all need some love in our lives, people. You know what's that song? Put a little love in your heart. I don't know how it goes. Who cares? Probably answered this before, but I don't remember hearing it. Why did you choose Japan, and when did you know that you wanted to stay indefinitely? And how did your family react? Excuse me. Uh, he's kinda cute. Kinda, she says. Uh, why did I choose Japan? It was ultimately the reason I came here the first time was because I wanted to study Japanese history. I was fascinated by it, and that's what I was doing in university. So I came for a study abroad here, and I'd always thought sort of romantically. I'd always thought sort of romantically that, oh, it'd be so nice to live in Japan, but it was kind of like a naive idea from what I'd read in books and from what I'd seen in anime, right? Like that kind of thing. Like, oh, Japan must be just like this anime says showed it to be, or it must just be like these history and sociology books say it to be. And after coming here for that time to study abroad and really, really getting a taste for it, then it sort of changed from like, okay, well, it's not just a naive romantic thing anymore. I understand to a degree what life will be like, maybe for me to be here, what it's like interacting with people, how I will have to get from place to place, maybe what costs are like, and things like that. And so, to answer your question in a very roundabout way, Jake, um, Charlie, do a fart. You can't tell me what to do. You're not my supervisor. Um, but in a very roundabout way, as I said, to answer the question, I didn't know until maybe 2007, 2008, when I was either starting or finishing that study abroad program, that this was probably where I was going to be. And as far as my family goes, they're still reacting. My mom is like hoping that I'll come back. And there's this girl back home who we've been kind of mutually interested in each other for a long time, but nothing ever happened. And so my mom is just like hoping that I move back and marry this girl and we make babies and blah blah blah, this whole thing. But it's not gonna happen. So excuse me. What was your major? Did you do TEFL prior to? My major was Japanese history and philosophy. And yeah, that's why I ended up studying abroad here, because I was doing an independent study on Tokugawa era reforms. For anybody who's interested in that period of history, I'll talk your ear off about it forever. Oh, good, Becky, your partner in crime is here. And I did do TEFL prior to coming to Japan. Yeah, I think I did like, I think it was called like Eye to Eye was the company I went to. It was a 140-hour program. It cost me about $400. And here's the thing I want to say about TEFL. At least if you're thinking about coming to Japan, I can't speak for experiences with other countries. Companies like it if you have your TEFL. They'll say, oh man, thanks for putting in the work to get ready for this, like things like that. But ultimately, it's just, it maybe will help you get your foot in the door and will maybe give you like, an extra 1 percentage point on how good of a candidate you are for the company. But yeah, ultimately people don't care, it seems like. So Emily's been drinking clearly because she's asking me to do unimaginable things. Unimaginable. Inconceivable. Death. All right, there's a lot of controversy with majoring in Japanese history. Japanese. Was it worth it? Emily, this is the weirdest trolling I have ever seen. You creep. Has anybody else ever seen somebody being trolled on a live stream by someone asking them to do duty? I'm gonna die in stream if I laugh too much. No, not you, Becky. Emily. Wikipedia. Sorry, I'll answer this question. There's a lot of controversy with majoring in Japanese history / Japanese. Looking back, was it worth it? Yeah. I think it was worth it. Insofar as if I weren't majoring in Japanese history, I wouldn't have gone to Aichi and I wouldn't have made the friends I had and had the experience I had and made like the kind of the second family I made with my host family. And things like that. So in that regard, certainly worth it. But I think unless you're planning on going into like a field in history, right? Maybe a research field, or you want to go to like a museum or something like that. You want to go into a museum sciences program or something like that. Maybe don't get a history degree. Although people, places like Google, they hire history majors for various reasons, because a lot of what our focus is outside of just history is critical thinking and critical writing. Is a really big thing in that. So in that way, it is attractive. But it's for the same reason that maybe majoring in Japanese isn't such a good idea. It's because it's super niche. Excuse me, super niche. And yeah. So for example, I always wanted to teach, right? But originally my plan was to teach Japanese history. So that's why I did it. I had a plan to sort of go along. But as many of you know, I tend to change my plans all the time because I suck. Have you ever joined any classes at local community centers, like cooking courses? Yeah, sometimes I go for cooking courses. They're fun ways to practice new Japanese and meet new people. And I also go for like art class kind of things. And sometimes there's like shiberikais, like talking parties where you can go and speak Japanese with random people for a while, people who want to connect with foreigners in their area and stuff like that. So I definitely check that out. I've actually applied to 25 companies so far. How much did you apply to before going to Japan again? I applied to, the first time I wanted to come over here and I didn't end up taking any of those offers, was 2 companies, and then when I applied and actually accepted a job, I applied to 3 companies. But Alan, keep in mind, and not to rain on your parade, the fact that you're 17 probably is not going to be a very um, is not going to work in your favor when you're applying for a lot of these companies. Oh man, what is happening in the comments? It's about to be a shit show. Oh dear. Let's play nice, children. Play nice. Oh dear. Excuse me. Oh dear. Oh dear. Should we all hold hands and sing Kumbaya in the comments? I think that's what needs to happen because, yes. What? Peace and love. Sound back now? Live. Still says we're live. Okay. Sorry, guys, for the technical difficulties. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. I wonder if it's just because I was getting too far from the mic. Okay. So yeah, to get back to topic, like I said, I study Japanese now about 20 hours a week. But two things that I would do differently when it comes to Japanese is I would commit to probably a school, not like a conversation school, like a full-time thing, but I would commit to going to classes every week much sooner. Now, for the most part, I study almost completely by myself, and it's fine. But there's accountability that comes from going into a school and going into a classroom and having people who expect you to have done your homework or to expect you to have tried, you know, from the previous week to accomplish a goal or whatever. And so the accountability is really, really important. It's really, really important. And probably for the first year I was here, it was only self-study and sort of fumbling my way through conversations and ignoring all sorts of rules, I'm sure, in the language and stuff like that. And ultimately what it came down to is that's not taking your, in my opinion, that's not taking your life in a new country seriously, right? If you're not actively trying to learn the language that will allow you to live a happier, fuller life here. And that's what it came down to. Whereas now I go to class 2 hours every week, and in addition to my self-study. And the thing is too, is that a lot of cities, both in Sabai City, for example, and Fukui City, both of which, I live in Sabai City. Fukui City is a 25-minute train ride away from me. I can go for if it's 2 hours a week, it's 8 hours a month, right? It's 8 hours a month. Brain power. 8 hours a month, it costs me 6,000 yen, which is just about, I don't know, 50-ish bucks to get pretty good quality Japanese lessons. And so ultimately it wasn't a matter of not being able to do it financially. It was my being a flaky, lazy asshole who didn't want to take himself seriously. And honestly, that sums up so much of my life problems right there. But that is not the topic of the video, for sure. Excuse me. For sure. Have you seen an improvement and built your confidence in speaking, listening, and reading? Yeah, Alan, Yeah, the N5 bucks can, or the JLPT books can be really expensive if you buy them outside of country, unfortunately. Here is super cheap, but that doesn't really help you, and I apologize for that. I don't know why. It's not my fault, but I'm sorry, I guess. Have you seen Yeah, the try books are great, by the way. Have you seen an improvement and built your confidence in speaking? Listen, yeah, for sure. For sure. The thing is that if you really, really sit down and commit yourself and you put serious time into it, and I mean serious time, like at least 10 hours a week into studying, an hour a week is not going to do anything for anybody, frankly. Excuse me. If you commit to it, it's amazing how quickly you will improve your ability, right? And the thing about language that I noticed too is that it's like some kind of evil black magic shit where you'll study like a grammar construction, or you'll study a couple new pieces of vocabulary or a new piece of kanji or whatever. And then all of a sudden from that point on for like the next week, those will be like the only things you'll hear in conversation. Not the only things, but I mean to say they suddenly they jump out at you. And it's like the world has taken on new color, right? It's like what is that movie? Pleasantville, where suddenly things are starting to be filled in with color and you're like, I never thought life could be this wonderful. Nobody's like that. I'm not like that, but you get the point. You get the point. So grammar, Alan, is super, super important. Learn to love it as much as possible. Yeah, Rez, if you, I since you're in London, I bet you can probably find somebody is in like a brick and mortar shop. But if you can't, then italki is the way to go. I found some really decent teachers on there, although I'm not using one of them right now. Using one of them, that's a strange way to put it. But yeah. All right, keeping the topic here. Keeping the topic. Uh Alan, for the sake of other people, I'm not going to respond to that point right now, but I will talk to you on the Twitter. So yeah, now the last real point that I want to make. So I think maybe now if you guys have questions about things that I haven't talked about, or you want me to expand on something I have talked about, start putting them in the comments now, because we're gonna start wrapping things up. Is I would start acting like myself a lot sooner, I think. Just put my hands down. It's gonna be really distracting for people. um, yeah, I would start acting like myself a lot sooner. By which I mean, you hear a lot of people talk about how when you come here, the nail that stands out gets hammered down, that sticks out gets hammered down, and things like that. And in some ways that's true. Like I've talked about on Twitter, like a guy who lied about doing his garbage correctly, and the lying was the problem, but he also got a lot of shit for doing his garbage incorrectly before that, just because he wasn't doing it the right way. Um, so there are things that you cannot really do differently and get away with here. People will complain about things if you don't do them in the right way, the ordinary way that things are done here. But I honestly feel that you're more free to be your weird, freaky self here than you are anywhere that I've ever lived. Um, and admittedly, I've only ever lived in the States. But coming from a place that prides itself on being the land of the free, and all that stuff, you know, coming here and being able to talk openly about everything that I'm really interested in, or dress the way I want to dress. Like basically, I dress like an elf, but like an elf, but I mean elf in like the shooty arrow kind of sense. Um, you know, my weirdness is so accepted here, but I was so scared for so scared for the first again 6 months to a year that I was here, that I was gonna stick out too much, and it got to the point where actually one of my very close Japanese friends said to me, "I think it would be better if you were a little more foreign, if you were a little less, if you were a little less, if you were trying to blend in a little less, right? Because ultimately, what makes people like you, what makes people love you, is your weirdness or the things that are different about you." And so what that means is, I mean, don't get me wrong, if you have like a toe fetish, which first of all, Feet are weird, man. I just want to point out, you do you. I'm just saying. But if you're passionate about hiking or you're passionate about writing or you love manga or you love Utada Hikaru, like some kind of weirdo, wink. Um, you know, those are the things that are going to make you friends beyond all those horror stories you hear of people having really, really shallow conversations. I guarantee you there's no quicker way to break through those shallow conversations and make real friends and have real conversations than by sharing your passions and showing people what you are interested in. Whether you're living here or you're living in the US, it doesn't matter, or anywhere else in the world for that matter. So yeah, I would try to be less concerned about what people would think about the things that I love, and share it with them. And if they're interested in that and they want to make a connection with me, then so be it. That's great. And if not, then whatever. There are a lot of people in the world. There are a lot of people in the world. We don't all need to love each other. Well, we should love each other because otherwise, death, basically. But yeah, we don't all need to be best friends. So that is what I will say. So that is really all the things that I want to talk about that I wish I had done differently. And I see you guys have left me some questions. So thank you for that. I'll get to them in a second. But I think looking through all the points that I wanted to make, and this is a point I made in yesterday's One Cup of Japan, is that I would encourage you, if you're going to come over here, if you're going to move over here, and I would tell my younger self too, to sort of be more active in shaping your own experience, right? It's not a way to live, I think, to be passive, particularly if you want to move to another country. And at least for me, one of the big reasons is because I wanted to learn a new culture. I don't think I was trying to escape from too much in the States, although I got out just in time, let me tell you what. But yeah, it's important to really take charge of your destiny. So anyway, having said that, I'll get off the old soapbox and get into your questions now. Did Japan meet any of your expectations when you first arrived, and how did they change in your first weeks living there? Yeah, there were a lot of expectations I had. For example, excuse me, I can't even remember the expectations I had, to be honest. The first time I came here, it was 10 years ago. Holy shit, it was 10 years ago. But yeah, I mean, there were some things that fit into it. Like, I understood that a lot of things were very regimented and things were put in very specific boxes. That goes for what certain people do and what certain people don't do. For example, I remember trying to help my host mother with her dishes not her dishes, everybody's dishes after dinner. And I was trying to help her with dishes, and afterwards she said, "No, this is my life," in English, which very clearly meant, "No, you don't do the dishes. This is my thing that I do." And maybe that's a bad example, but and but maybe the thing that surprised me the most about my expectations that I had before I came here was that I expected people to be really strange, right? Like, that's the biggest failing, I think, of internet media, is sort of spreading this perpetual idea that Japan is just a really weird place, when in fact it's just a place with people who are just people trying to just live their lives, right? So that, I think, is maybe the biggest way my expectations changed after I really started to open my eyes and actually live here, was that, yeah, people here are just like people back home, and maybe they have a little bit different habits, but they want the same things ultimately. Does everyone in Japan like Line more than other apps? I have no idea. I have no scientific data on that particular fact. A lot of people do use Line and Puzzle and Dragons. What? Puzzle? Is that? Yeah, that's what it's called. I'm more in anime and all, so most of my questions are going to be about that. But the season, or rather last season, there was an anime by the name of Yojo Senki. Have you seen it? I did not seen it. What's it about? Have you not found that the people you meet just sigh and roll their eyes when you start talking about anime and manga? No. People have not ever rolled their eyes at me. I mean, maybe internally they're like, "Oh fuck, here's another American who loves Gundam. Like, can we get away from this guy?" Who knows? And sorry, this is a R-rated stream, there's gonna be some F-bombs occasionally. But I mean, don't get me wrong, like I'm not going up to a person who I'm just met and I'll be like, oh man, did you catch the new season of Shogeki no Soma, right? I mean, ease into it with all things, right? You don't want to freak people out. You know, show you're crazy, show your passion in little increments, but don't be afraid to show it is the point. Because guess what? Lots of people here like manga and lots of people like anime, and some people aren't interested in it at all. But more often than not, at least outwardly, right? Because people are a little bit loath to share too strong of opinions with people they've just met. Like nobody's gonna be like, oh, you're another one of those damn nerds, aren't you? So Yojo Senki is about a guy who lays off an employee, then the employee basically gets salty and pushes him off the edge. Whoa! That is serious business, Ellen. Did you know Victor is copying your one cup of concept with Chuhai? Is he? Well, that's okay. The name is mine, though. I will fight. No, but to be honest, I think it's like a cyclical thing because Victor probably inspired One Cuppa. I don't even remember how the One Cuppa thing started, to be honest, but I'm pretty sure Victor inspired One Cuppa. And so now if he's actually taking a cuppa with him when he's doing it, then more power to him. Yo, this what's it called? Yojo Senki? It sounds like kind of some crazy shiz. It's kind of some crazy shiz. But yeah. No, I just started watching a couple new anime from this season too, so I'm hoping to report back maybe at the end of the month with the last live stream of Veda what I think and feel about some anime. So we'll see. Some animes. So on that note, guys, if there are any other questions you have, please put them in the comments now. So we're gonna be ending this here stream pretty quickly so I can go catch my train because I've got one ticket to paradise because nobody's coming with me because everybody hates me. So there's that. Excuse me. I mean, it's fine so long as it's not called like One Cup of Japan. That would irk me a little bit. That would irk me a little bit if the name was the same. You know, you gotta at least pretend like it's not the same concept. So, I mean, it's okay to hate me if you want, Jake. That's another thing I should have talked about, I suppose, but too late for that now. So much more than that. You should give it a watch. I will give it a watch. I will definitely give it a watch because even though it sounds crazy, I will you know, I'm into crazy, man, but not into feet. Just in case we didn't get that earlier. Yeah, D, that's kind of what I mean. Like I think probably he inspired the One Cuppa thing to begin with. Though I really wish I knew why I started the One Cuppa now, but it was too long ago. Back when I was a younger man. Okay, here's a question from Ross. You mentioned in your One Cuppa that other foreigners left some Japanese people were being fake with them and not fully open with them, so they left. Are they really my friend or no? So it's literally the same. I see, Emily. Okay. Okay. Did I experience anything like that? So in other words, that I was having kind of fake relationships with people? Roz, is that the question? Did I ever feel like I was having fake? Hello, oh my gaijin, how are you? Have I ever felt that Japanese people were having like a fake relationship with me kind of thing or fully open? Yeah, not like an ongoing relationship. Not like an ongoing relationship. But I don't know. I never felt like it was fake. You know, I think I've talked about before how I've been in the izakaya and somebody's been like, hey man, let's go to karaoke, and you have like really interesting conversation, you have a few drinks together, you have some laughs, and you never see those people again. And I've had relationships with women who have sort of told me to fuck off because I'm a foreigner and they can't marry a foreigner, and or there have been other women who haven't felt I'm foreign enough, and so they didn't want to date me anymore. So I've had experiences like that, and in some way that is kind of a fakeness, I think. But other than that, as far as like the friends I've had, like the actual friends, right? I don't think people here are any more fake ultimately than people I've had interactions with back home. I live in Chiba. Chiba's a cool place. How long you been there for? Oh my gosh, man. I mean, did you feel you're trying to make friends? What if it was a struggle with some opening? Yes. It can be a struggle to make friends here. It can be a struggle to get people to open up to you, particularly when you don't speak Japanese well. Because first of all, like I said, people are a little bit reticent to share their unfiltered opinion with strangers, and particularly with a stranger who might not understand the nuance of their meaning or something like that. So of course, maybe they sort of stay away from that. So it can be hard to make deep actual friendships if you don't speak Japanese, for sure. Future plans for this channel. Um, for April at least, there will be a live stream every Monday, Monday my time, just like today, around this time, sometime between 10 and 12 Japanese Standard Time. And I do have more videos planned for this week and things like that. The plan is for 30 videos in April, and that's going to burn out probably a lot of my ideas, so I will need to think about what I'm going to do in May. But I'm working on kind of a fun series. It's going to come out in the last week of Veda. In fact, probably the last week of Veda will be just those videos. It's called Tetsugogo, which is a series about the philosophy of different pop culture properties. We're gonna be talking about the first season we're gonna talk about an Utada Hikaru album. We're gonna talk about Evangelion. We're gonna talk about Ghost in the Shell. And so it should be a lot of fun, but it's taking a lot of work to put together and edit and research and stuff like that. So the plan is for the last week of beta, but maybe that'll be like a more of a May project if I have to put more work into it than I plan to. Been here since November. Nice, man. Big plans for Golden Week. Yeah, I'm gonna go to a couple different places. I'm going to Gifu to stay in like a ryokan slash onsen with my girlfriend for a couple days, and then I'm gonna backpack down from there to Kobe to visit my girlfriend again in Kobe and meet her family down there. And that's gonna be my Golden Week, hiking and chilling out, and hopefully eating some good food and stuff like that. So, what about you? You got any good big plans? Hello. I'm moving to Japan in a few weeks. Hello, Youngtang. Thank you for joining us. And I haven't come across a lot of Asian American foreigners online. Do you meet a lot of Asian foreigners in Japan? For sure. I know a lot of Chinese people who work here, and also Filipinos. And there's also a really big population of Brazilians in the neighboring city, but I don't know many of them. But as far as Asian Americans, I don't think I've ever met an Asian American here. Not to say they don't exist. I'm sure they do. You know. Any plans to visit London, bro? I would love to. Maybe now where all the Brexit stuff is happening and I can sort of come over there for relatively cheap, I should get on it. But favorite Japanese swear words or cusses? Do I have any? Aho. I like calling people aho a lot. Under my breath, of course. I don't, tell it to them to their face a lot. And one's not really a cuss word, but it's kind of like a jokey word to say like you're kind of an idiot, which is ampontang, which I really like a lot. And kusojiji. I like that one a lot. I like that one a lot too. So barbecue at Chiba Beach and off to Akita Prefecture for Northern That sounds awesome, man. That sounds like a great way. Honestly, barbecue season. This season right now, I just did a barbecue yesterday for under the cherry blossoms here, and it was great. It was great. Can I tell Americans from other foreigners? Almost immediately, because there are exceptions to the rule. The loud foreigner stereotype, almost always, it's either an American or an Australian, guaranteed. So maybe I should say that at least at first, I can at least tell if you're an Australian or an American. There are, of course, crazy Canadians. One or two of them are in the comments right now. But yeah, yeah, for sure. Spot him from a mile away. Excuse me. Glasgow urban is shithole. We got some UK firefight happening right now in the comments. All right, guys. Well, anyway, I think that's where we're gonna end the stream for today. So thanks always for watching. If you have any questions you would like me to touch on for next week's stream, of course, you can let me know either on the Facebook page, or probably the best thing to do is to get at us through Twitter. Get at us. Who's this us? Get at me on Twitter. I don't know if you need to hashtag it. You can hashtag it with something crazy if you want to, like hashtag Charlie sucks. That's what you should do. Hashtag Charlie sucks. And put your questions there. And then if I see them, I will, of course, answer them at the beginning of next week's stream. And I'll announce the time next Sunday night, Japanese time, of when the stream is going to be in the topic and all that. So thanks, everybody, for coming out. Really happy to see how many of you came out to see the stream, to watch the stream, and for your questions in the comments and everything. Simon, it's nice to see you, if only for a couple seconds here. And yeah, guys, thanks always for watching, and I'll see you all very soon indeed. Cheers. Where's the off button? Where's it go?